The quiet
Hello
moment
there.
most people don't talk
Don't
about.
worry, we're gonna
Many adults over 65 don't realize this. The most unsteady moment of your day isn't when you're walking outside. It's the first few steps after you stand up, not when you're rushing, not when you're tired. Just those first quiet steps. You wake up, your feet touch the floor, and for a second, your legs feel heavy like they're still catching up. You're not dizzy, you're not sick. You don't feel pain, you just pause. If that sounds familiar, you're not imagining it. Frank is 69. He lives alone in Arizona. Every morning, when he steps out of his bedroom into the hallway, he slows down for a moment. Not because he's afraid of falling, but because his body needs a few seconds to feel steady. Frank walks every day. He keeps active. And like many people his age, he's been told that walking is good for him. So when this happens, he doesn't complain. He doesn't panic. He just quietly wonders what's going on. This is usually the moment people don't say out loud. They just think it quietly. Today, we're not here to tell you to walk more. We're not here to label anything as a problem. And we're not here to promise a quick fix. Instead, we're going to talk about what tends to change inside the body after 65, especially how the brain and muscles coordinate movement, and why walking alone may no longer train the exact systems that help you feel steady at home. If this feels familiar, you don't have to decide anything right now. Just listen and see if the next
This
part
model
connects with your own
demonstrates how the
experience.
cellular structure
Have you noticed this too?
reacts to the new
When do you
compound,
feel it
as
most
you
in the
can see
morning
illustrated
or later
right
in the
here.
day? Number 5.
Hello there.
The first
Don't worry,
steps
we're going to take
are
excellent care
often
of
the
you here.
hardest. For many people after 65, the most challenging steps of the day aren't the long ones. They're the very first ones. Frank notices this almost every morning. He wakes up around 6:30. The house is quiet. He swings his legs off the bed and stands. Nothing dramatic happens. He just doesn't move right away. He waits. Only a few seconds. It's not fear. It's not pain. It feels more like his body hasn't fully checked in yet. This is a moment that walking doesn't really prepare you for. Here's what's going on. After a night of lying down, the body is in low gear. Blood flow has to shift. Nerve signals take a moment to pick up speed. Muscles that help you stay steady haven't been asked to work for hours. Standing up is a transition. It's like turning on an old house in the morning. The lights don't come on all at once. Some rooms take a moment. Walking later in the day often feels easier because everything is already running. But those first steps from bed to hallway ask for a different kind of coordination. Long-term research that followed adults over 60, including work referenced by the National Institute on Aging after 2018, has noticed something consistent. The communication between the brain and muscles is often slowest during position changes, especially right after standing. In simple terms, this means the body may need a few extra seconds to organize itself before moving. Walking is still very good for overall activity and circulation, but it usually starts after the system has already warmed up. That's why some people find that walking starts to feel less complete in daily life after 65, especially first thing in the morning. It's not that walking is wrong. It's that this moment asks for something slightly different. The good news is, this isn't about doing more. It's about giving the body a brief chance to settle and coordinate before moving on. If you want, we'll come back to a small, safe adjustment that many people find helpful during this transition. For now, let's look at another everyday situation where this shows up usually later in the day, inside the house. Number 4.
Hello there.
Walking moves
Don't
you
worry, we're
forward,
gonna take
but
excellent
life
care of you
moves
here.
you sideways.
Everything.
Later in the day, things feel a little different. Ellen is 67. She lives on her own. In the evening, she walks into the kitchen to get a glass of water. She's not rushing. She's not tired. She's done this 1,000 times. As she turns toward the counter, she lightly touches the edge of the table, not because she's about to fall, just because her body wants a point of reference for a moment. She notices this more inside the house than anywhere else. Here's why that can happen. Walking is mostly a forward movement, one step after another, straight ahead. But daily life doesn't move that way. At home, you turn, you pivot, You step sideways around a chair. You reach for something while your feet stay planted. Those movements ask the body to stay steady in more than one direction at once. Walking doesn't spend much time practicing that. It's like driving comfortably on a long, straight road, and then feeling slightly unsure at a busy intersection. Long-term studies that followed adults over 60, including work published in the Journal of Gerontology after 2019, have noticed a similar pattern. Walking helps with endurance, but it doesn't give much practice for side-to-side balance or turning. In simple terms, this means your legs may feel strong enough to walk, but your body can hesitate for a second when you change direction. That hesitation often shows up at home. Not outside on a straight sidewalk? This is why some people say, "I'm fine when I walk, but I feel off when I turn." It's not a weakness, it's coordination, and it's common. Walking still supports your health in important ways. It just doesn't spend much time on these sideways turning moments. If this feels familiar, you don't need to fix anything right now. Just notice when it shows up for you.
Side-to-side balance
We'll look
is
at another
crucial.
common place this
It's the
comes from
mechanism
next,
that prevents us
and it
from
has to do with
falling
muscles
over
most
when
people
we
don't even
encounter
realize they're
uneven
relying
surfaces.
on. Number 3,
Hello there.
the quiet
Don't
muscles
worry, we're
that
gonna
keep you
take
steady.
excellent care of.
There's another place this shows up, and most people don't notice it until a small moment gets their attention. Ray is 72. He lives in a one-story home. In the afternoon, he steps into the garage to grab something from a low shelf. It's a short step down. Nothing unusual. He's done it countless times. But this time, his foot lands, and there's a brief pause. Not a stumble. Not a scare. Just a moment where his ankle takes a second to respond. Ray walks most days. His legs feel strong, so this catches him off guard. What's happening here isn't about big muscles. It's about the quiet ones. Some muscles don't move you forward. They help you adjust. At the ankle, the hip, the side of the leg, and the small muscles under the foot. They're like the background staff at a theater. You don't notice them when everything runs smoothly, but when they respond a little late, the whole scene feels off. Walking mostly uses the larger, familiar muscles. They do the steady work. The quiet muscles don't get much practice unless something asks for it. Long-term research that followed adults over 60, including work referenced by the National Institute on Aging and the Mayo Clinic after 2018, has noticed a consistent pattern. Smaller stabilizing muscles often respond more slowly than larger muscles when they aren't regularly used in varied ways. In simple terms, this means you can feel strong and still feel briefly unsteady when something unexpected happens. A small step down, an uneven surface, a change in height. That's often when the quiet muscles are meant to step in. This isn't a failure. It's not a sign you're doing anything wrong. It's simply that these muscles don't get much attention from walking alone. If this feels familiar, you don't need to change anything right now. Just notice when it happens, especially around small steps or uneven ground. We'll talk next about how your balance system takes in information and why that matters more than most people realize. Number 2,
Hello there.
when balance feels harder without movement, there's another place where many people notice this, and it often shows up during very ordinary moments. Nancy is 70. She lives independently. In the morning, she stands in the bathroom getting dressed. One foot stays on the floor. The other lifts to step into her pants. She can do it, but she doesn't rush. Sometimes she lightly touches the counter, not because she's about to fall, just because it feels steadier that way. This isn't really about strength. It has more to do with how balance works. Balance isn't a single skill your body either has or doesn't have. It works because a few different signals in your body have to line up. What your eyes see, what your inner ear senses about movement, and what your feet and joints feel through the ground. When those signals line up smoothly, standing on one leg feels natural. Walking supports this system, but mostly in one direction. Most walking happens on flat, familiar surfaces. Your eyes know what to expect. Your feet repeat the same pattern. Your balance system doesn't have to adjust very much. Standing still is different. There's no forward motion to help you. Your body has to make small, quiet corrections, moment by moment. Long-term research that followed adults over 60, including balance studies connected to Harvard-affiliated programs after 2020, has noticed a consistent pattern. When balance systems aren't used in varied ways, they can become less responsive during quiet, stationary tasks. In simple terms, this means you might feel fine while walking, but less comfortable when you stop, stand still, or balance briefly. That's why moments like getting dressed, stepping into the shower, or reaching for something while standing can feel unexpectedly awkward. This doesn't mean your balance is bad. It often means the system just hasn't been asked to work this way very often. Walking still supports your health in important ways. It just doesn't give much practice in standing still or balancing without movement. If this sounds familiar, you don't need to correct anything right now. Just notice when these moments show up for you. There's one final piece that helps tie all of this together, and it has to do with how the brain adapts to movement as we get older. We'll look at that next. Number 1.
Hello there.
When the brain stops
Don't worry,
getting new
we're gonna
signals,
take excellent.
there's one final piece that brings everything together. And it doesn't begin in your legs. It begins in your brain. Paul is 65. He lives a steady, quiet life. In the evening, he stands at the bottom of the stairs in his home. He isn't tired. He isn't worried. He just pauses for a moment before taking the first step. Not because he's afraid, but because his brain seems to want a second to check the math. It's a small pause, easy to miss, but it matters. As we get older, the brain becomes more selective about how it uses energy. It pays close attention to movements it sees all the time, and slowly gives less attention to movements that rarely change. Walking the same routes, at the same pace, sends very familiar signals. The brain learns those patterns well. And once something becomes very familiar, the brain doesn't practice it as actively anymore. It's not forgetting, it's conserving energy. Long-term research that followed adults over 60, including studies on how the brain learns movement after 2018, has noticed this pattern. When movement stays predictable, the brain's response can become quieter, especially during moments that require quick adjustment. In simple terms, this means the brain may take an extra moment to respond when something isn't routine. A pause, a turn, a step that feels slightly different. This doesn't mean the brain is declining. It means it's doing what it's designed to do. Focus on what it thinks matters most. What's reassuring is this: the brain remains adaptable well into later life. It continues to respond to variety, to new signals, to make small changes that gently ask it to pay attention again. That's why walking alone can start to feel incomplete after 65. Not because walking stops supporting you, but because repetition by itself doesn't ask the brain to adapt. If you've noticed those brief pauses, moments where your body seems to wait for instructions, you're not imagining it, and you're not doing anything wrong. If you're curious, we can talk next about what this might look like in everyday life, and a few small, safe ways people often support this process. Only if that feels useful to you. Closing.
Hello there.
Understanding your body.
Don't worry, we're going to take
not
excellent
pushing
care of
it.
you here.
If there's one thing to carry with you from this conversation, it's this: your body hasn't stopped responding. It just responds a little differently than it used to. After 65, changes often don't arrive loudly. They show up quietly, in brief pauses, in small hesitations, in moments where your body seems to ask for an extra second. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It usually means your system is being more careful with how it uses energy. Walking is still valuable. It supports your heart. It supports circulation. It supports overall health. But as we've seen, walking alone doesn't touch every part of what helps the body feel steady, especially during everyday moments inside the home. What many people notice is that small, calm adjustments made safely and over time can make daily movement feel a little steadier and more predictable. Nothing dramatic, nothing extreme, just thoughtful changes that fit real life. If you recognized yourself in any of the moments we talked about today, those first steps in the morning, Turning in the kitchen, stepping down in the garage, or standing still while getting dressed. You're not alone, and you're not behind. If this conversation was helpful, you're welcome to subscribe and spend more time here.
Lately.
And if you'd like, in future videos, we can explore a few simple, everyday ways people often support these systems, only when that feels useful to you. Before making any changes to exercise, medications, or supplements, please talk with your doctor to be sure they're appropriate for you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to your body. We can take the next step slowly, and only in ways that feel right for you.